Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Simon Broken, part 8. I'm no good with numbers. And I did leave you on a cliffhanger. I'm sorry, she's pregnant. Oh, come on. What are we going to say about this? Martin has been to Thailand twice. He came the first month and he hooked up with her once at the end of his first month. One night together. He came back the second month and he paid her bar fine for about 10 days, and they spent 10 days together in Koh Samet. Oh, it was more, it was 2 weeks, wasn't it? Koh Samet and Koh Chang. Then they came back from there and he saw her every night in her bar, and they probably stayed together each night. Or didn't, I don't know. As I mentioned before, she was playing around with illegal substances, taking them, not buying them. Oh no, not selling them. She must have obviously been buying them to be able to take them. And what sort of substances, I have no idea. Did she have a Thai boyfriend at that time? I don't think so. I don't think so. Did she have a Thai girlfriend? Again, I don't think so. She was close to a few of the girls, close to the boss, but I think she was too much of a party animal. Did she have other foreign boyfriends, customers? Yes, most definitely at that time, for sure. But Martin was cool with that. He was fine. He hadn't made any commitment to her. He hadn't said that he'd fallen in love with her or anything like that. Hadn't asked to be his official girlfriend. Hadn't offered to give her any money every month. Hadn't offered her anything like that, or hopes and things. He'd just been straight with her, which is the best way. So he'd gone back to the UK after the second trip, and 3 months down the line she'd been arrested, caught in possession of some substances, picked up a 20,000 baht fine, which sounds about right for those days. Don't know what it is these days, but it wasn't just her. A few of her friends, about 8 of them, if I can remember correctly, had been lifted and busted and arrested, boys and girls. She was lucky. She'd contacted him and he got the money to me, and then I got the money to her, and she'd paid the fine and she'd got released. Well, she'd been released. She had so many days to pay the money. That's changed probably in the last 20 years. Now you wouldn't get released. You'd have to pay before you were released. So she got that paid. He'd helped her out. She now owed him. But then straight out of the lightning bolt, she's pregnant. And she's saying that she's sort of 3 months, 3.5 months pregnant. Most girls who work in the aerobics industry, in go-go bars, beer bars, if they do get pregnant, and a lot of them don't take birth control pills, or birth control injections, or whatever is around these days, they rely on men using condoms and things. And I asked Martin, and he said, and remember back then AIDS and HIV was rife. It was really in the news everywhere. And I'd asked him when he telephoned me, hadn't you used a condom? And he said, no, I never use condoms. Now a lot of guys I meet, come here, subscribers and stuff, that topic comes up sometimes, and so many of you say that you don't use protection. Now that's really risky, and I don't advise it at all. This isn't a public broadcast about please use a condom. Anyway, he didn't use condoms. And he didn't even at first say that it wasn't his, or it might not be his. She had other customers before he was there, after he'd gone back. To me, she's got to have tests. Anyway, a lot of the girls, bar girls, go-go girls, and girls in the industry, if they do get pregnant, most of the time, huge percentage will have the child, have the baby, and then you'll find that they'll leave the baby to be brought up by the mum and dad. So the baby's grandparents will bring the kid up, and some girls 2 or 3 kids, and they go home, have the baby. They take 6 months off work. As soon as they start showing, they can't work, so they go home 6 months or so, have the baby, get themselves fit again, and then go back to work and leave the baby at home in the village, city, town, wherever the family lives. That's the normal, and it's accepted. And the grandparents would expect, her mum and dad would expect money every month to take care of the bills and also to cover all the costs of the newborn baby. When Bar said to him that she's pregnant, she said, "It's yours." And he didn't, at that first phone calls and things, he didn't really, was not with it, hadn't thought it out. Anyway, he'd rung me, and I was like, okay, I'd organised the 20,000 baht and paid her so she could get off the out of jail as such. But as far as the baby goes, I said that at the time, give me a ring when you've had to think about it for a few days and what you want to do. And he did. He waited about a week. He'd obviously been speaking to her, and then he came back to me and rang me back about a week later and said, how could he prove that it was his baby? And I asked him, yes, you can get the tests, but I believe it's quite dangerous doing those tests through the pregnancy. You have to wait, I believe, till after the birth and then do tests. I said, so you can't really do anything, you've got to wait. He went off and checked this out, and yeah. So I said, you have to put it in your mind that it's either, are you ever going to come back to Thailand? Do you want to come back to Thailand? Do you want to have a baby with a Thai girl? Do you want to seriously get involved and take it a step further? Marriage, maybe? There were so many questions for him, so many things to go through. Back in the UK, he had ex-wife and 2 kids, and Martin was an incredible father. Even though they broke up, he was, to this day, incredible father. Did anything and everything for his kids, even helped the ex-wife out quite a bit. Absolute one of those wonderful guys that would never not do anything for his kids. So it was really hard for him, really hard to go through this. He was really working long hours, 18 hours a day, taxiing, but he was making the money, and he just started doing more hours. He was pushing himself to the limits. No days off, no nights off, just work all the time. And he said what he would do, it would be another couple of months and he should have enough money to come back over for a month. So that's what he planned. And I actually said to him, why don't you just keep working and don't come over and wait till it's time for the baby to be born, and straight after you be here then, maybe for the birth, and then and then you can get all the checks and everything done. So she was already 3 months pregnant, she had 6 months to go, and he was on about coming, and he hadn't thought of that, and he then started thinking about that and agreed that yes, that was a better idea. But I also said, if this is your baby, she's going to stop work at some point. She's going to need some money to go home to the village, have the baby, at which point then you arrive, or just before. I said, you're going to need to get her some money, which meant even more work for him. And I said, if it turns out she has the baby, you come over and, sensible, and you do the tests and it's not yours, then you walk away. I said, if it is yours, you won't feel guilty that you didn't help her through the pregnancy and childbirth. And again, we finished chatting. He came back to me about a week later. He chatted to her, told her what I'd said and everything. She was still working in the bar. She was still going with customers, and she's pregnant. So she probably had another month or two maximum left before she had to leave. And he came back onto me and agreed that, yeah, that's the best thing to do. He's going to wait. So he was going to wait further. He'd come over for longer, he said. By working longer, he'd have more money. He could come over for a couple of months. And he'd look into visas and see if he could get a longer visa. But back then it was just a 30-day tourist visa. You left the country. Well, you could get a 15-day extension back then inside Thailand, or you could do a border run and get a 30-day, another 30-day. But the way around it was do a 30, get a 15 extension at local immigration, then do a border run, get another 30. So that's what he was planning. So he just stuck his head down, worked every hour he could, and she didn't have bank accounts that he could send her money, so he used me. He sent me 10,000 baht a month for those following months until he came, and I passed it on to her as a mate would, no problems. And she came down to get the money each month, and for the couple of months. After the couple of months, she was off back to the village. So then I didn't have a way of getting the money, but I found a way. You could use, I had a Thai bank account then, and the girls in my bar could transfer money to her. So we did it that way for the time she went back to the village, and she did. She started showing. After about 6 months, she left and went back to Buriram. He was on the phone to me every few weeks. His mind was playing all sorts of mind games with him, tricks. He just didn't know what to do. He was not in a position, he was never going to be in a position, even though he had a house, a mortgage, and he was earning good money and paying his mortgage off, he was never really going to be in a position, not having a private pension, that he could retire anytime soon and come and live in Thailand. He could only work maybe 6 months and come here for 6 months would probably be the best he could do. And that, if the baby was his, he started talking about how he thinks he was going to go down that path. He started thinking ahead that the baby is his before knowing, and that he started planning ways of spending more time in Thailand within his means, without stretching himself or breaking himself financially. Yes, he could have sold his house, the equity would have been a lump sum, and he could have sold his vehicle and all this and come, but he would have only lasted maybe 5-10 years, which wouldn't have been enough, and then he'd run out of money, and he still wouldn't be old enough to get a pension. So it wasn't an option, and he was very sensible in that way, the way he started looking and planning. The time flew by. It got to the stage where she was 8.5 months pregnant. She was back in the village, and he was en route. He'd arranged with her that her brother would pick him up at the airport and take him up to her village. Now, I don't think he'd been to the village. He hadn't been there before. She was in a very rural village in the Buriram district, and poor house, the mum and dad, quite a poor house, small house, a little bit of land. What they did for a living, I'm not sure. I don't know. I'll have to check with him. And were they both alive? I need to get those facts. but he was going to land. The brother was going to pick him up in his pickup truck, and he paid the brother a taxi. Not brother. It wasn't a brother. She didn't have a brother. She had a sister. Sorry. It was a neighbour, I believe. Yes, because in her little village there was another foreigner living there, about 4 houses away from her, in a moderate house. And one of the neighbours, the guy, had a pickup truck. It was that guy that went. See, I get these facts wrong. So long ago. Yeah, it was a guy, one of the neighbours, and he had to pay him, and it was about 5,000 baht. It was quite a journey. Pay him for taxiing him up to her place, and he hadn't been before. Meet the folks. I've still got a funny feeling the dad wasn't around. This is the problem with filming love stories when I can't remember all the facts. My brain is going. He landed and eventually found the guy and the pickup truck, and they headed off to Buriram. What would you do if you'd come to Thailand, had aerobics with a Thai girl from a bar who was a working girl, and she was pregnant? How would you handle it? What would you do? Let me know. Would you not come back to that girl and walk away? Or would you do what Martin did, find out, help her through the pregnancy, find out if it was your baby afterwards, and stick with her? Or would you walk away? What would you do? Let me know in the comments below, because that's an interesting one for a future video. You could title the future video, I got a Thai girl pregnant. Yeah, give me some data. Would you stick around? Would you leave? What would you have done in Martin's position? I'd be interested to see. I'll see you on number 8. Bye for now. What would you do? What would I have done? If I'd have got a girl pregnant when I was working in the bar and I didn't have the finances, I'd have gone home and got the finances, worked hard, come back, figured a way out of taking the girl, well, proving the baby was mine, but then working hard, figure a way out of getting her and the baby back to my country, where I could then earn enough money to look after them, is what I would have done. See you on the next one. Bye for now.